We bow. Within your ritual booklet, there's a sheet of paper called the Incense Offering. Please stand and let us recite this. Together we say, in gratitude, we offer this incense throughout space and time to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May it be fragrant as the earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, wholehearted awareness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. Please remain standing and we will recite our 3 refuges in the Heart Sutra. I go for refuge to Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, the way of peace, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to the Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the 3 jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to live simply and sanely, content with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly, so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. Turn the book over and we'll recite the Heart Sutra. And we recite the title at the beginning and the end. The Maha Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. The Bodhisattva of great compassion from the deep practice of Prajna Paramita perceived the emptiness of all 5 skandhas and delivered all beings from their suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form, form is emptiness, emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind, no realm of sight, no realm of consciousness, no ignorance, nor extinction of ignorance, no old age and death, nor extinction of them, no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering, no knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva holds on to nothing, prajna, paramita. Therefore the mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Without hindrance there is no fear. Away from all perverted views, one reaches final nirvana. All movements, past, present, and future, through faith in prajna, paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the prajna, paramita, is the great Dharani, the radiant, peerless mantra, the utmost supreme mantra, which is capable of alerting all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the prajna, paramita, gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisattva, gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisattva, gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisattva. Maha prajna paramita hridaya sutra. Please be seated. Good morning again.
Good morning.
We have a teacher in training called Kajisu, named Kajisu, and he was supposed to give the Dharma, he was scheduled, I apologize, to give the Dharma talk this morning. He telephoned me early that he was feeling not quite correct, and he wasn't sure why, but he, just for safety, he was going to stay away, and later today go get a COVID test and find out what's going on. So we all wish him the very best. In the wrong one. In the incense offering, it says to all, we offer this incense throughout space and time to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And the word Bodhisattva shows up again. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. The Heart Sutra begins with the Bodhisattva of great compassion. I know there are people here new to the practice, new to the teaching. What is a Bodhisattva? Within the Theravadan tradition, that is a tradition of South Asia, the southern tradition, they call it, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Burma, Laos, Kampuchea. A bodhisattva is the Buddha to be. Before Siddhartha achieved awareness, enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, he was, in retrospect, called the Bodhisattva. Now, we are not a Theravadan temple, we are a Mahayana temple. And in the Mahayana tradition, and the word Mahayana means great vehicle. It is capable of holding everybody. Within the Mahayana tradition, a bodhisattva is someone who has come this close or even stepped into awareness and enlightenment. And instead of leaving samsara, the cycle of birth and death, the cycle of birth and death, a bodhisattva is someone who is going to remain part of samsara, the creation, part of the physical world in order to help all beings. And that's what the golden guy there, the woman there, the golden man here, the bald guy here, these are bodhisattvas. They are individuals who have decided to remain in order to help all beings. And we have a class here periodically where people study the bodhisattva path and eventually take the bodhisattva vows. There we are. Now, as you know, I have a tradition of speaking a few words on the Heart Sutra. And I just kind of did with the explanation of the bodhisattva. But last week, Kate said to me in her wisdom, why don't you speak about that stanza in the Heart Sutra that says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth stanza, it says, no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering. As I said, I'm a teacher, but I'm also a student, so I am learning with you. And as I read this, I understand what it's saying. Maybe. But then I have to explain it, Kate. That's a whole nother story. What is the foundational teaching of Buddhism? It is that teaching which the Buddha gave when he stood up from under that tree and he went off to find the 5 ascetics he had practiced with for a number of years. He sat down with them and the teaching he gave was called the turning or the first turning of the wheel. And in that teaching, he laid everything out. And I'm going to use the Sanskrit word, and then I'll explain that word. There is dukkha. There is a cause for dukkha. There is freedom from dukkha. And there is a path to practice to help us realize, experience, whatever word you want to use, to realize freedom from dukkha. What is dukkha? When Buddhism first came to the West, it was translated by people who were more scholarly than, well, I just leave it there. It was a very scholastic type of translation. And they used the word suffering as a translation of dukkha. There is suffering, there's a cause of, there is suffering all through life. Life is suffering. And there's causes for this suffering. There's a way to experience freedom from this suffering. And there's a path to help us discover, experience, realize this freedom. I've never really been happy with that word, and a lot of people haven't, because I live a comfortable life. I'm not suffering unless I, stub my toe, and then it's a very slight suffering.
But there are better words to translate dukkha than suffering. That's like asking someone to define love with one word and they were to say affection. Okay, affection is in there somewhere, but it doesn't define the massive, embracing idea of love. And the same with suffering. Better words might be anxiety, stress, worry, dis-ease, uncomfort, unsatisfactoriness. If you are a student and you have exams coming up, you know dukkha. If you're a young parent with a young child, you know dukkha. If you're a 30-something parent with a child thinking about marrying somebody, you know dukkha. To pay our rent, to pay our mortgage. Stress is everywhere in life. And that's what the Buddha taught. There is this stress that we all experience. There's this anxiousness, this anxiety, which we all experience. And that is the foundation. That is what the teaching has been giving us forever. You can experience freedom from that stress. And the way to experience it is to follow to the best of our ability the Noble Eightfold Path. And that will help us find freedom. Now, there is suffering, there is anxiety, there's a cause for anxiety, there's freedom from anxiety, and there's a path leading out of that anxiety. But Shariputra is told by Avalokiteshvara, the great bodhisattva of compassion, that there is no suffering, or there is no dukkha. There is no cause of dukkha. There is no cease from dukkha, and there's no path to lead out of dukkha. The one and the other. What are we to make of this? One of my favorite quotes, and I've probably done this every Sunday for the past 10 years, is that line from the morning bell chant. Everything is created by mind alone. There's also that line and I spoke about this, 2 weeks ago or so, that form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Now, those two together might help me come to an understanding of no dukkha, no cause of dukkha. If everything is created by mind alone, that means I'm looking at something and I'm perceiving it through the filters of my beliefs, hopes, fears, experience. So you may not find this thing stressful. I may, because of our experience. So we are creating our own stress, our own anxiety. I have to pay my mortgage. I'm worried. Can I pay my mortgage? Yes. Don't worry. Can I not pay my mortgage? No, I can't pay it. Well, then don't worry. It's not going to do anything but make you uncomfortable. Do what you can. A little bit flippant because we're all going to worry about something like that. But now let's get to that emptiness. Nothing exists independently. Nothing exists of its own. Nothing just comes into being. Everything is here because of causes and conditions. So if I can look at what is causing my stress right now, perhaps I can lessen it, but also I will come to understand that it is not something that just came into being. It has a reason for being. And knowing that is what is being told here. There is no suffering. It is simply something that I have created or that has been come together because of other conditions, other causes. Have I confused you enough already? All right. Please ask a question. Help me know where you want to be. Help me find where I've caused confusion. Any thoughts? Repeat it.
Oh, dear. Doesn't it say in the Heart Sutra, there is no path to lead out of suffering?
Yes, that's the fourth. The Four Noble Truths. The fourth one is that, or the third one is there is a path, and the fourth one is that path. But yeah, and in here she says, there's no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, and no path to lead out of suffering. What does that mean? Is that what you're asking? That path is, again, a teaching device, a creation to help us experience freedom. And when we practice the path, a time will come when it will just fall away from us. But it is a creation. It was the Buddha put it together, formulated it to help people understand how they could walk away or how they could experience freedom from that suffering. Now, you see what I said at the beginning? I understand it until I have to talk about it. So I hope together we can find this answer. Will, I'm going to put you on the spot. You're an intelligent young man. No, you're not. Any thoughts on what we've said so far?
I would say that I absolutely agree that the practice of Buddhism does eventually lead to a realization that no perspective is unassailable. There is no, I don't think that the human mind is completely capable of ultimate truth without great effort. And I think that is the resolution of what would appear to be a contradiction there.
And in order to experience or to practice this great effort, we have to have a start. And Buddhism is founded on wisdom and compassion, or ethics, if some people like that word better. Wisdom, compassion, and awareness. And they all are found within that Eightfold Path. And if we can follow that path, which is, proper or correct viewpoint, proper or correct understanding of the teaching, understanding of why I may act the way I act, or why you may act the way you act, or why we may respond the way we respond. Buddhism has been called the science of the mind, to examine what's here and why we experience things the way we do, and then why we address those things the way we do. Help me. Give me some more thought here. Yes. No. Oh, yes. I'm glad you're here, Will, because I don't know.
Yeah. So when you were saying that, that they're talking about this, that there's no pathway out of it, I thought of something came to mind. Like, you mean like, is it like an illusion then? So since it's really just something we created, that there's no real true pathway out of it, it just sort of disappears or goes away when we have the realization or the enlightenment? Is that?
That's a good way to start, because to practice the practice, I have to practice. It sounds redundant, but the experience of Buddhism is not a belief system. It's a practice, things we do. And so we do certain things, and we get better at those things by repetition, by repeating, instead of grumbling because somebody drove inappropriately by you on the highway. send them thoughts of good luck or goodwill. And you're altering a pathway there, a response. Now, you also said illusion. I'm glad you said that, because that word, when people hear the word illusion, they think of it not being there or not being true. In Buddhism, the word illusion would just means, not just, but it indicates that we are experiencing something other than it truly is. We are looking at it, experience it with our senses, and our mind is one of our senses. In an unrealistic way, we have our own beliefs, perceptions, fears, wishes, hopes. So instead of instead of letting it define itself, we define it for us. A simple example, I think I've said this before, is as a kid, our farm was hit by a tornado. We suffered a lot of damage. And I was terrified of tornadoes for years. The sirens would go off, I fear. And I came to think that tornadoes were awful, evil things. Well, that's an illusion. A tornado is not an evil thing. It simply is a thing. When the conditions are right, it's there, but it's not there to purposely cause evil. I put my perception on it. It is just a weather phenomenon, but it's a weather phenomenon. It's neither good nor evil. We name it. And that's what we do with a lot of things. Would you pass that mic? Just here.
I always put up things in a little bit easier references. So I always picture it as like somebody who loves to run, like marathons or something like that. He's not running the marathon to get to the end of the marathon. He's running the marathon because he loves to run. And that's what suffering is. Suffering is life. So we're all running this marathon. And yeah, we do have breaks in it, but for the most part, we're just trying to learn how to love to run. So that's how I picture it as.
Thank you. There's with the Eightfold Path, there's 8 steps in the path, and people look at it, and I started this way too. Well, let's see, right view. So I got to get right view, then go on to the next one, then go on to the next. And that's not the way it is at all. They're all integrated. There is not a goal to be achieved by following the Eightfold Path. And you said it with the marathon. I follow the Eightfold Path, period. And it is through that experience that I will begin living the Eightfold Path. And if anybody asks you, what is Buddhism? A very easy answer, I don't know if you like easy answers, but the Noble Eightfold Path is Buddhism. It is a definition or description of what we do, and it is a definition, a description of what we want to be. I keep feeling my teacher here when I use the word want, or anyway. If I practice correct livelihood, correct speech, correct anything, if I practice these steps within the Eightfold Path, which touch every part of our life, eventually they won't become practice. They won't be practice anymore. They will be my default action, I guess. When you learn to swim, and I learned to swim at a very young age, you think, but pretty soon it comes to a point where you don't think, you just do. Playing a piano, playing basketball, all of those things are the same thing. You learn, I'm sorry that word simply, sometimes it's difficult, but you learn to play the piano, you learn to play basketball. And then a point comes when you're not thinking of, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. You're doing it. You are living the practice. And that is what Buddhism is asking us to do. Now, we've gotten a mile away from what we started with, which is fine because tangents can help, and I'm comfortable where we are. Did you have something, Will?
We have a question from the Zoom.
Okay.
This is Ethan. He
Oh.
says, when we encounter suffering, is the correct practice to embrace it, not to try and make it go away? Is the act of fighting against our suffering, would that be aversion? Deep bows.
Is that Ethan when his last name begins with a W?
Yes.
You're a wise man, Ethan. You know, I would love to give a yes or no answer to that, but I think it depends on what that suffering is. If I have to go to the dentist and I'm not going to like this, embrace it. No, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back. Yes, Ethan. Embrace it, because even if someone you love dearly dies on you, you have to, and embrace might be a word that we're not comfortable using in that situation, but it means acceptance. We have to accept the fact that that person who we love has passed away. Because if we don't, we're going to be in tremendous pain for a very long time. Someone we love dies, go off into the woods or somewhere alone and scream and cry. Do that as a private memorial, but then let it stay there and come back and live your life carrying their love in your heart. Would somebody else like to comment on that, embracing suffering? We waited until you got far away, Will.
Instead of embracing, maybe the word I like to think of is lean into it. Lean into it, realizing the suchness of what is. And two things when I first came to Buddhism that were really helpful was that the dukkha, or the dis-ease, ill-being, whatever word you put on it, is also an incredible opportunity to learn compassion. And that was really heartening for me. And then the second thing was, and kind of unrelated, but for those people who are just here, somebody once said to me, the person that gets under your skin the most is your greatest guru.
Your greatest guru,
Mhm.
greatest teacher. Yes. Give her back to her. You said something. I think I forgot. I think I lost it. I lost it. I'm sorry. I'll think about it and grab you later. Any more thoughts or comments?
Hey, it's kind of in a different direction, but I've always found it interesting that it's the Heart Sutra, and basically when you untangle all that, like we experience in a life, right? It's more like, to me, it's more like remembering. It's going back to that core and letting go of everything compiled on it, the polarity of it all. But it's kind of like what's left is the faith in Prajnaparamita. And I think that my mind keeps trying to wrap around defining that it's as like, because it is the Heart Sutra. Is that supposed to kind of be just loving awareness in that sense?
I think it's the heart, because it's the heart of wisdom, the very heart of the Prajnaparamita, or very heart of
The
Paramita.
core.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, anybody else? I see any hands? Okay. To get back to those, there is no suffering. Remember, everything in Buddhism is a teaching tool to help us experience reality to its fullest. It is when we allow our personal filters of our beliefs, our hopes, our wishes, our fears, when we allow those to color experience, to color reality, that is when we drift away from reality. Now, the reason I said everything is a teaching tool, the Four Noble Truths, the positive and the negative, the Buddha sat down for quite a while after he achieved enlightenment and says, how am I going to teach this? And this is what he came up with. So it is empty in the fact that it is a tool. It is not anything we hang on to. It is there to guide us, to help us, to teach us. But you know the old saying about I make a raft, I get across the river. Now, am I going to carry that raft with me? I don't need it, but it was helpful. No, I'm going to leave it there. The Four Noble Truths are a raft to help us get across the river to that other side. Once we are there, once we have learned through experience to be the practice, none of these tools are needed. We are the practice.
It's a comment, but that's okay.
I just really appreciate thinking about emptiness as like I always think of a vase or a vessel, which is empty. We fill these things with
Pull it just while this move you, Matt. There you go.
we fill these things with we fill it with something else, and like the teachings, they are empty, and we put our own meaning into them. So emptiness is a vessel. It's real. It's just not full of anything until we put our own thoughts and intentions into it. Does that make sense?
Yes. You remember Bruce Lee?
Yes.
Yeah. He said that the usefulness of the cup is its emptiness.
Mhm.
You can't do anything with it if it's not empty.
Exactly. And just going back to the other thing that you were saying about, or we're talking about, our relationship with suffering. It's like acknowledging these things just feels like the important way to, rather than, because you can't just embrace suffering. You have to acknowledge it first and be in relationship with it. It's just deciding to be in relationship with it instead of ignoring it or pushing it down.
I think acknowledgement is very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very quick, we have a comment from Kaji Su. He says he wanted to comment on the path question. The Buddha's use of skillful means by setting up the path and showing us the way out of suffering, is so important, especially in the beginning. Then we hear there is no path, which can be confusing. I think the most important part is remembering that there is nothing to attain. You have everything. There is no path to actually walk because we're here.
Thank you, Kaji Su. You gave a teaching anyway, even though you're homesick. And that is, read his last line again.
The most important thing to remember is that there is nothing to attain. You have everything. There is no path to actually walk. We are here.
That's exactly right. And that is one of the most important things as a Buddhist you can remember, or as a practitioner. You don't have to have statues and incense and robes and whatever. What you be aware that everything you have is here. And if we can let, are there any kids here? All the BS fall away. All the nonsense fall away. All the baggage that I have, all my filters of belief, want, desire, if they can all fall away, we can experience reality. All right? Let's prepare ourselves for meditation. And we bow. Remember, it's a practice. It took me many years, a lifetime, in fact, to get the opinions, the bigotry, the whatever is in my way to experience reality. It's taken me a lifetime to get those, to create those. And so I'm not going to brush them away in one afternoon or one weekend. It's a long practice. Don't give up. Announcements. Over here. Yeah, why don't you come up here, Gail? Let the world see you and your smile.
Yes. Good morning. My name is Gail. Given name is Gail. Dharma name is Katya Sattva. I'm part of the fundraising committee with Kate, and I'm also a board member. So I'd like to talk to you about our annual pledge that ends actually on Tuesday. So the Grand Rapids Buddhist Temple operates on a donation-only basis in keeping with our practice of both generosity and dana. Dana is the practice of giving and receiving and is central to the Buddhist practice. Our goal for this last 6 weeks was to be able to have $2,000 to meet or exceed that amount that would help us operate on a monthly basis. Your generosity keeps our temple open and helps us to share the Dharma in the community. So to make a pledge, you can pick up a form at either end and put it in the black Dana boxes. There's a link in the newsletter, or for those of you that are watching on YouTube, there's a link at the bottom. Thank you. Oh, and to date, we've reached 40% of our goal, and we're very grateful. Thank you.
Before Will takes that mic away, any other announcements? Okay, let's see. The Dharma discussion group is Thursday morning, 9:30, 9:35. We have meditation. Then we speak about living the practice, and we read a book to help us guide that conversation. Right now, we're talking about, we're reading Thich Nhat Hanh's Fragrant Palm Leaves, which is his journals from the early 60s, mid 60s. And then next, we're going to be doing Karen Armstrong's 12 Steps to a Compassionate Life. There are Buddhist-based recovery meetings here. You can get more information on our website, and they're Monday via Zoom, Wednesday at the Al-Anon Club, Fridays here or via Zoom. The board meets second Tuesday of each month, 6:15 to 8:15, and you may, yes. Or you may come and observe, yes?
I just wanted, if people are interested in coming downstairs after the service for the Buddha Boutique, and for those of you that are new, we have a library. And this morning I had a question about what's the significance of malas. Can you just address that?
You're asking me? What is the significance of a mala? You don't need a mala to be a practicing Buddhist. I have probably 20 of them. Every time I took a vow or something, my teacher would give me another mala, and we do it with the preceptors. Malas are used, sometimes people use them for chanting. When we do a remembrance memorial for someone who has died, that large mala around Bodhi's neck there, there's 108 beads on a mala. We will chant something for the person who has died 108 times. I'll use that to count. I have heard that there are a few people who use them for meditation. I think that would be a distraction. The only thing you need for meditation is to sit and be still and observe. But malas are a nice thing to wear on your wrist if you want to, if they are a reminder, if they can act as a reminder that you are trying to live a specific practice. I cannot think of anything else about Amala. I very seldom use one, except I say as a guide for chanting. That's about it. Does anybody here have a comment on Amala? No? All right. Yes.
I just started using a Mala bracelet, and it has helped me tremendously with my meditation because I was everywhere. I just couldn't, and so I'm chanting and moving along my bracelet.
So you say your chant, move it next beat, say your chant.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Right now, it's keeping me on track, and I'm hoping that there's going to be a better outcome after a while. But right now, it's really centering me.
That's good. And remember what I said earlier, that everything is a tool. This is a tool Ellen needs at this, Ellen uses at this time. Okay. Yes.
Dokwan had produced a video. Dokwan had produced a video on the mala, so you could go to YouTube and find it there. It's several years old, but it might be a good source if you wanted to hear his take on that.
I didn't know he did that. Yes. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. There, within the practice of Lojan, I can see that. Oh, when is the next Lojan? Oh, I don't have that list with me. Is it the Friday or something? I Thursday, okay, and it's 6:30. Lojan is a Tibetan training practice to help create a more compassionate mind. And thank you for asking. I will have that list with me from now on. And Lojan is traditionally on or near the full moon, but because of many things, it sometimes shifts a little bit. Anything else? All right. Please stand and we'll recite our clothing gathas, which are on page 9. And together we say, for all unskillful action ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts, now I atone for them all. Vast is the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddhist teachings for the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless blind passion, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to penetrate. The great way of Buddha, I vow to attain. That last, or the second to last line of the Bodhisattva vows, Dharma gates without number, I vow to penetrate. There are many, many, many ways to experience Buddhism, to practice Buddhism. There are many tools to use, just like remember that. Please turn this way, you turn this way, and we will bow to each other. Have a nice day, y'all.